We start off with our meditation. We're going to look at Nikki Giovanni, African American poet, and says, "We love because it's the only true adventure. We love because it is the only true adventure." And if an adventure, I think, is something where we get out there and we take a risk, and we don't know what's going to happen. But unless you take a risk, unless you try something new, unless you try something different, unless you get out of your comfort zone, how are you going to experience anything in this world? And that's partially what this is that when to truly love someone, become vulnerable, ultimately what we're talking about, to become somebody who is open to love, receiving love and giving love. What an adventure that really is. You just have no idea where it's going to take you. And what I have found is that love is truly limitless. There is no, you can't give too much love. And I'm not talking about overbearing parents or kids or that kind of stuff. I'm talking about true love. Um, is something that the world can only benefit from. So we're in Mishnah chapter 4, Mishnah 11. Rabbi Yonatan, uh, anyone who fulfills the Torah despite poverty will ultimately fulfill it in wealth. And the Hebrews is mikayam, is to establish or to make a part of your practice, your daily life, a part of living a life in which spirituality is a part of your life, and living Torah is a part of your life, that it becomes something that you do. It is a part of your life. If you do it and you here it says, despite your poverty, that you still do it, that you still are. How I would phrase it in modern terms, you still stick to your principles even when things aren't going how you would like them to go, or it's not going as well as you would anticipate. In the case of poverty, you don't have financial means or the resources to live how others are living, or you're comparing, or what it is, whatever it is, that those people, that despite all of that, they still live a principled life, a life of Torah, a life of spirituality, a life of trying to become better. In the end, you will receive wealth. Uh, um, and I don't think they're talking about if you just hold on long enough, you'll become rich. I think what they're talking about is perspective does change. When we are focused on certain things, whatever we focus on increases. And if we focus in on our financial situation and it's not as good as we thought it should be, that will become all encompassing. If we focus on what we do have, that will become what we see. What you focus on ultimately is what you see. And if you focus on the principles of spirituality, of Torah, of growth, those are the kinds of things you will see. So these things come up over and over again. But whoever neglects Torah because of wealth will ultimately neglect it in poverty. In other words, if you have everything you need, all of your financial needs are taken care of, everything you are set, and you don't have a set practice of a Torah study, and you don't have a set practice of spirituality, or so on. All the anonyms that we're using, or should say synonyms that we're using for Torah, if you don't have it established, when you come in and out of wealth, or you come in and out of prosperity, or you come in and out of certain places in your life, if you don't have a set practice, it's not going to happen when major upheaval happens in your life. Today is the time in which we set our disciplines. Today is the time in which we set our our way of being throughout the day. That's the most important thing. That when life happens, and it will happen, positive things happen, negative things happen. Life is in session. Life will happen. Good happens, bad happens. All of these things happen. That's part of life. But if we don't have a set routine, discipline around our spiritual life, our growth, our Torah, whatever it is, then it's not going to come when it gets better at some point in the future. That idea of future tripping, or thinking at some point, if I don't have an opportunity now, it will come at some point in the future. I'll get to that tomorrow. It most likely will not happen. So we move on to Rabbi Meir says, this is chapter 4, Mishnah 12. Rabbi Meir says, reduce your business activities. And oh, so this is really interesting. We went over this. Oh, it's already been 3 months now when we started this whole thing. This was just going to be one little Mishnah, my favorite Mishnah that I just love and I read on a regular basis, and I was sharing it online, and then it turned into doing the whole thing. And if you look and hold this somewhere in the back of your mind, so that when we get to, this is Rabbi Meir says, when we get to the Mishnah that we originally started with, you can see some of the similarities that they pull from this. Okay, so Rabbi Meir says, reduce your business activities and engage in Torah study. So reduce business, engage in Torah. What we talked about months ago was about making it, doesn't mean cease it, but minimize it to the best of your ability, so that you can pursue Torah. In other words, pursuing Torah or pursuing spiritual practices is more where we should focus our energy. And so I want you to think for just a minute, think about your life, and what are some of the most important parts of our lives, our work life, our relationships, our spiritual life, our physical life, right? And think about where you are right now. What are you doing well right now? And oftentimes, if you're doing well in one place, another place sometimes is not doing as well as you would like it. So let's say you've been really working on your spiritual life, and that's been going really, really well, and you feel really comfortable in that, and maybe you feel as though maybe you've neglected a little bit of your work life. You're not as much as focused on that as you would like. If you're really in a great spot physically, you feel that you're the strongest you've ever been, and you've been working out and eating right and doing all that. Where in another part of your life do you feel that you may have need to increase some of your efforts there? And often it's in those four categories: your relationships, your work life, your physical life, and your spiritual life. It's generally going to fall into one of those four categories. Here in this case, Rabbi Meir says, reduce your business activities, engage in Torah. And I think he's pointing out that so often we are focused on what makes us an income, what allows us to make the dollar, what allows us to make what we need to live in this world. And that's really something that I think modern folks, I mean, written 2,000 years ago, or even more, but I think we all deal with that. Where's that next paycheck going to come from? Where am I going to get the money to pay for it? We see it all over the place now, that where are folks going to get money to pay rent? Where are folks going to be able to get money to pay for health insurance? And all of these things that it doesn't come cheap. And some of the most challenging parts, in at least in our society, is that we do support people who chase the dollar. So what Rabbi Meir is saying is, reduce that. You don't. It's not that you ignore it; it's that you minimize it to the most basic level that you need to make your parnasa, to make your money, and that which you do, and focus in and spend the other time focused in on Torah, spirituality. Focus on that. And I think do the math for yourself. Where is it that you can take a moment to increase what it is that you need to do better? I was always very, very active in my physical routines over the past several years, and then since COVID hit, it's been much more difficult. I've been more focused on work. And again, we want to stray from good or bad. We want to stray on what can we do better and how can we do it better. Okay, so now Rabbi Meir says that reduce your business activities and engage in Torah study. And then look at what he says next: be humble of spirit before every person. Uh, um, um, well, here the Hebrew is shafal ruach. How is it that you present to other people? And this is where this is where we, we have to define the word humble or humility. And I think oftentimes people mistake it for something like, this person who lives in a humble home and doesn't have things and lives a simple life. And so, what is it that you define humility as, or being humble? And for me, I shared this a couple of days ago, was being right size. Know who you are, know your place in the world, know what it is that you can do, what you can't do, what you do well, what you could do better. It's really taking responsibility for yourself. And once you really are at peace in yourself, comfortable in your own skin, when you really are comfortable in your own skin, you really are comfortable in your own skin. And people experience that. So when people know that you're okay with you, they feel that, they sense that, they know that about you. If you've ever met somebody who's anxious or full of anxiety, or just filled with negativity, or they're uncomfortable all the time, you feel that as well. And so what's the important part for me to define humility? The important part for me to define humility is that it makes sense to me, and that's how I define humility. So I would want to be that way in front of everyone, comfortable in my own skin, being okay with where I'm at, who I am, what my capabilities are, where I need help, how to ask for help, right? It's being okay. And when you're okay, you're really okay. And so that we bring that attitude to other people. Too often I think we bring an energy to people that isn't easy to be around. And is that bringing something to the situation or taking it away? I know when I'm in my head and I'm worried about something and I feel distant, I know my family knows immediately. And my son will call me out on it. Where'd you go, Dad? Something like that. And that's not necessarily me being okay in my own skin. Now, again, this happens all the time. This is a human condition. This isn't about that I should always be in this one place, but that's the place but if we could be humble and really okay with who we are in that moment, it's easier for us to connect with people. So Rabbi Meir comes in. If you should neglect the study of Torah, you will come upon many excuses to neglect it. But if you labor in the Torah, God has ample reward to give you. And I think this is just a beautifully well. It's really a microscope, I think, into the human condition, which. If you should neglect Torah, you will come upon many excuses to neglect it. What's happening in here? And I'll get to it tomorrow. I don't have time today. That was really interesting. But the excuses that we give ourselves to start something, if we don't make it a priority, and here Rebbe Meir just says, well, if we're neglecting something, or if we don't spend the time, or if it's not, in modern terms, if it's not a priority, we won't make it a priority. I know that sounds very simple, but if your spiritual development, if your work environment, if the four things we're talking about, your spiritual development, your work environment, your relationships, and your physical life, if those things aren't really priorities in your life, then it's just not going to be a priority, and it takes a back seat. And so if it does, then if you're like me and I have an image of where I want to be, right? I want to have great relationships. I want to be great at my work. I want to have great spiritual connection with other people, and I want to be physically as fit as I possibly can. And in as much as I have an idea in my mind, in as much as I don't live up to that story that I tell myself about me being that kind of person, if I'm not living those disciplines, I'll be making excuses. And once we start making excuses to why I'm not where I think I ought to be, and I start making excuses, man, that's a tough place to be, because that will lead to, anxiety, depression, those kinds of things. And so this is where the humility I need to know what I'm capable of. I'm not, look, if you're capable of, and let's just use the working out, if you're capable of working out 2 or 3 times a week and you tell yourself you're going to do it and yet you don't do it, that's the neglect. That's the not living up to my own kind of expectations of myself. What happens to you? And we have to make excuses to why, well, I got busy this week. It was a crazy busy week, right? So these are some of the thoughts around, our internal discussions that we have regarding humility and making excuses. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll wrap up today. And okay, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said, "He who fulfills even a single mitzvah gains himself a single advocate, and he who commits even a single transgression gains himself a single accuser." Repentance and good deeds are like a shield against retribution. And so, this is actually, to pull this apart, there's a lot of Hebrew here that I think is really important. So we're going to go piece by piece. We might not finish it all today. Ha'oseh mitzvah achat, koneh lo praklit echad. So the doer of a mitzvah, just one mitzvah, it doesn't matter which one. You do something, and however you can call it a commandment, that certainly it is. There's the 613 commandments that traditionally we understand is that we received from Sinai. But when you do these actions that help and develop your spiritual life, you acquire, you literally gain, you literally kone here, it means to acquire, to gain for yourself. And then this is rabbinic literature, something that is out there supporting you, an advocate, something that is out there, right? And I just want to say, how is it that you feel when you do something that is positive spiritually? Do you not feel as though the energy in the world changes? If you're able to support somebody with tzedakah and help them out, do you not feel an energy around that you put something in the world? And that is real. That's tangible. That is something that is so accessible as well. And one of the things that I really like is that before I daven any prayer, I mean any service before, Shachrit, Mincha, Mariv, there's a little saying that you should do a mitzvah or something positive before you enter in that, to put that energy out there. And so oftentimes one of the things that people do is they give tzedakah before they daven, before they pray in the morning. And the actions that we take, the energy that we put out there, can really make a difference. So one of the actions that you take is here is saying it's becoming an advocate for you. It's becoming something that you're putting out in the world. What do you put out in the world on a regular basis? Do you put out positive energy? Do you put out energy that is something that people want to be around and are attracted to? Do you put out and do mitzvahs? And it's not about big, small. It's just one. Right? It doesn't say a big mitzvah. It doesn't say, right, he donated 100 grand to something, or $1. It doesn't really concern itself with that. It is the action that is really important. Uh, um, uh, and the one that transgresses just one sin acquires a categor, an accuser. And so when we do negative things, right, that when you've done something in the world, or here it says an avera, or something, we know when we put out in the world something negative. And sometimes maybe it's in the back of your mind, ticking and ticking, and that I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have, I missed the mark there. I was off on this thing. I didn't do it as best as I possibly could. When we have that, you feel that energy as well. Teshuva uma'asim tovim kitris bifnei hapuranut. So I'm actually gonna, this is something that I want to spend some time on. That literally repentance, or tshuva, which is something so important, and good deeds, masim tovim, shield you against that energy, that negative energy. But I want to talk even more, because it shields you against just a shield might be a word that I think we need to define a little bit, but what we're able to do is that there is a way back. And I think that tshuva really is, and I want to spend time on Monday, we'll get to it, but tshuva is that even if you miss the mark, even if you're off, even if you've put out that negative energy, it's not the end of the world. There is a way back. There is something that you can do. You have to admit it that you know that you were off, or we're going to get into all that next week. But there is a way back, and any tradition that doesn't allow for a way back is something that, or any spiritual discipline that doesn't allow for a way back is one that is you just can't live up to it. Human beings are imperfect. We will miss the mark at times. So next week we'll pick up with tshuva and ma'asim tovim, and see you guys soon.